Hi, welcome to Social and Emotional Learning Self-Management, Managing Emotions and Behaviors to Achieve One's Goals. My name is Brenda Day. I am a therapist with Access Counseling Services. I have worked in Creekview Elementary, Wildwood Elementary, Mill Ridge Elementary, in Middletown City School District, and I've also worked at the ELC, and I work daily in my office as well with Access Counseling Services. Why are social and emotional learning skills so important? Well, the short and long-term benefits of SEL are many. Students are more successful in school and in life when they can know and manage themselves, understand the perspective of others, and relate effectively with them. Social and emotional learning skills help students to make sound choices about personal and social decisions, have more positive attitude towards oneself, others, and tasks including self-efficacy, confidence, persistence, empathy, connection, and commitment to school and a sense of purpose. It helps students have more positive social behaviors and relationships with peers and adults, reduce conduct problems and risk-taking behavior, decrease emotional distress, and improve test scores, grades, and attendance. In this PowerPoint, we are going over self-management. Self-management is the ability to successfully regulate one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in different situations. It's effectively managing stress, controlling impulses, and motivating oneself. Self-management is the ability to set and work towards personal and academic goals. So this includes impulse control, stress management, self-discipline, self-motivation, goal setting, and organizational skills. In learning about social and emotional skills for our students, it's important to understand developmental stages and the tasks in each stage and why they are so important. Disruptions in these stages really make it difficult for students in life, and giving them social and emotional skills helps to give them the tools that maybe they weren't given before, and helps to give them the tools in order to be prepared to meet these stages in life. So when we see our students in school, oftentimes we see some of these disruptions in trust, in autonomy, and feeling like they can do things, in feeling like they can carry things out independently, and really, feeling inferior to their peers sometimes. So it's important to know what our students are facing in order to help give them the right tools. Trauma in the brain. In this slide, I've put in a very rudimentary picture of the brain and how it works. And even though not all of our students have trauma backgrounds or face trauma in their lives, and hopefully never, all students are going to face struggles in their lives. So this helps to look at what is happening when our students are reacting. It is usually what we call a bottom-up system, starting with the brain stem, which moves to the limbic system, which engages their sympathetic nervous system. So that's when you see students just reacting, acting out. They're not really thinking. When that limbic system is engaged in that fight and flight stage, that cuts the access off to the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is where all the executive functionings, the making decisions, the right and wrong centers of the brain are. So oftentimes when you ask a kid, oh, what were you thinking? Well, they're not. They're oftentimes just reacting to something, whether it's something in their environment that they've read, or if it's just something that is kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. It's important to understand what's happening with our students so that we don't place blame right away. So we can understand, maybe is that something that is coming from an experience? Are they scared? Are they anxious? Angry? So giving kids social emotional skills helps them to be able to deal with this instead of from a bottom up, from a top down, to give kids, our students, more control. We also want to give our kids the ability to recover. Resiliency happens differently for all students. Some are stronger than others, and adults as well. So social emotional skills will also give them the skills to recover and hopefully learn from their experience and be able to move on in a more healthy manner. On this slide is a bunch of information regarding childhood trauma. It's important to understand childhood trauma in our school district, as our school district has so many different families. And as therapists, we do see these common causes of trauma and difficulty in our community. Things that our students are exposed to, such as child abuse, physical abuse, grief, witnessing violence, neglect, substance misuse, separation from loved ones, whether it's that students go and live with grandparents, aunts or uncles, or into the foster care system. So giving these students social emotional learning skills helps them to heal and to be able to get through and process not only their experience, but how to have more self-control coming out of these experiences. Sometimes triggers happen at school, whether it's fight, whether it's anxiety, and so that helps to calm down these fear centers, and it helps for students to be able to regulate themselves, and helps them to calm down and engage their parasympathetic nervous system so that they can think and get back to learning. Without social and emotional learning skills, these long-term impacts can be quite terrible. It takes away students' sense of safety, increases stress hormones throughout the body. It wires the brain to constantly expect danger. And it creates a sense of helplessness, struggles with problem solving, relationship problems, and results in serious behavior problems, which sometimes we're all too familiar with. And while childhood troubles and childhood trauma all seems hopeless, it's really not. When it feels disheartening to learn that trauma changes the brain, remember that healing changes the brain too. And we are giving our students the tools and problem-solving abilities to be able to engage their parasympathetic nervous systems. With my clients, I always say it's kind of like a parachute. I help them to remember parachute, parasympathetic. So when we are doing the belly breaths, when we're doing activities in our sessions, learning how to calm down in the classroom, learning to calm down at home, learning to problem solve, we are giving them what they need to be successful in life.
When students are aware of their emotions, they are better able to regulate them. They can learn how to manage stress and control their impulses. They are also better able to motivate themselves and work towards their personal and academic goals. Self-management is not just understanding who you are, but what are you doing with that information? How do you behave? How do you use that information to achieve goals, to work hard towards things? How do you manage your feelings? So we talked about understanding your feelings and self-awareness, but what you do with that anger is about self-management. How do you turn your self-awareness and your feelings and your emotions into positive actions so that you can have agency and advocacy for what you believe? These are all part of self-management and critically important for not just school, but work and life itself.
As adults, as teachers, as parents, we're responsible for helping kids by creating a regulating environment. So for example, in a classroom, it's really important to think about your environment and how you're helping kids regulate. So if you have a chaotic classroom and there's always tons of noise and maybe you have stuff all over the walls and you're not really organized yourself, that might be chaotic to kids. When you walk into your own classroom, do you feel calm? Do you feel regulated? Do your kids come into that classroom feeling safe? Because that's number one. We have so many kids with trauma and they're coming from homes that we can't even imagine what they're going through, and they walk into a classroom already completely feeling dysregulated. So something as simple as greeting each student at the door, smiling, using their name, that helps calm and regulate kids. We know there's a lot more kids with challenging behaviors, so let's give them an appropriate way to regulate themselves. They know at any time they can go to the safe corner, sit in the beanbag, take deep breaths, and usually we can have visuals there to remind them.
So self-management, I think about, stop, think, act. And with elementary children, it's very easy because they're often engaged in that play, whether it's at recess or through games. It's easy to have those conversations because of, conflicts that they have that we think are very minute, but for them are really great. With middle schoolers, I think through scenarios, going through skits and going through scenarios and really giving them real life examples versus having a fight or argument. What's the best way to address your conflict? What's the best way to communicate how you feel? That's an adult skill that you'll need for life. And I think we have to stop and really point out to kids, hey, this is not okay, there's a better way, or really allow them to manage the problem for themselves and just be there as a facilitator to guide that process.
I'm feeling really frustrated at Johnny again because he took my truck. Well, I'm gonna take a deep breath and I'm not gonna grab him back, or I'm not gonna punch him because that's the wrong thing to do. So for little ones, it's teaching them that they have the control to take a breath, to take a moment and think about what they're gonna do.
When we're talking about teaching self-management and how kids can practice that, we're really helping kids think through ways to stay focused and to stay engaged and persevere. So maybe during a math lesson, we're providing opportunities for them to work through multi-step problems and think through multiple solutions to those problems. We also may be asking students to think about how to control their impulses to shout out answers, really by giving them some norms and routines for how they can get their voice heard. We also want to encourage students to have their voice heard in positive ways. Having them at the table and having them feel heard gives them a better sense of who they are and how they can use their voice in positive ways. So we really believe elevating youth voice is an important part of helping students develop positive self-management and contributing to the greater good of the school.
The Ohio Department of Education breaks self-management down into 3 competencies. The first one is to regulate emotions and behaviors by using thinking strategies that are consistent with brain development. The second competency is to set, monitor, adapt, and evaluate goals to achieve success in school and life. And the third, to persevere through challenges and setbacks in school and in life. On this slide are 2 activities. They both meet the first competency to regulate emotions and behaviors. Almost all the activities that I found for each competency do connect back to Teachers Pay Teachers. I made sure to pick activities that were free of charge and easy to access. So in this first activity, Bump, Hill, or Mountain is geared towards K through 5, and it is to help students identify their problems and as either a bump, hill, or a mountain and match their response to it. So a bump-sized problem should not have a mountain-sized reaction. And the nice thing about this activity is you could always come back to it throughout the year with your students and ask, is this a bump? Is this a hill? Is this a mountain? For the second activity, is geared towards 6th through 12th grade. This second activity is found on the website called teensfindinghope.org. And if you can't get it from the link, it is underneath strategies and worksheets and information to download, all free and easily accessible. This is a thoughts, feelings, behavior log, and it really helps students to kind of understand the connections between thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and how they each impact each other. So a behavior might be, my mom yelled at me, so I left home. A thought might be, she thinks I'm a bad kid. A feeling would be, nobody gets me, and I'm angry because I have no one. And then the last section on each of these worksheets are, what could I change? And for this example, it'd be, I could have went to my room to cool off and then tried to talk to my mom. So it's a way for students to, in their own space, kind of investigate and take a look at their behaviors, thoughts, and feelings. Oftentimes in therapy, we talk about changing one of these in the triangle, changing a thought to impact your feelings, which impacts your behavior. So if you are feeling sad, maybe doing something that makes you feel happy so that you are then feeling happy and then you're thinking happy thoughts. So in this case, instead of leaving the house because mom yelled at you, it could be, I'm going to go to my room and I am going to look at a photograph book of me and my friends. And while I'm looking at that, I'm going to start feeling happy and remember good times. And then so that kind of helps to change the impact of the situation. Then you're thinking good things. You are also cooling down and then able to then re-engage with others better. The second competency, set, monitor, adapt, and evaluate goals to achieve success in school and life. This first activity, goal setting, helped me be my best activity, geared through to K through 5 students. In this activity, you are helping students to understand what are goals and increasing their vocabulary by asking students, what is a goal? What are some synonyms for the word goal? Emphasizing how goals are similar to dreams and that we aspire to get something we want or become better, and explaining to students the difference that a goal is an action plan on how to reach our dreams one step at a time. So explaining and setting up for them how to do this and be successful. That goals have time limits and steps. They're attainable, specific, and measurable. So really building their vocabulary, helping them to discuss and think about this in ways that are steps so that students can then set up and achieve goals of their own. The great thing about this activity is that it has all the steps put together for you, even with its own PowerPoint, and then also activity sheets for the students as well. So this activity takes about 15 to 20 minutes in the classroom. The second activity geared towards 6 through 12, goal setting and time management for secondary students. This activity is on TPT, free of charge, SMART goals and time management. This packet kind of comes with a lot. It has 3 inspirational videos, a PowerPoint are included with it to help teach and talk about setting goals and accomplishing goals with older students in our school district. So, and it has kind of like a 3-page guide to read with your students to help them create their own and accomplish their own goals. And finally, the last 2 activities are geared towards the third competency of persevere through challenges and setbacks in school and in life. The first activity geared towards K through 5, building resilience worksheet. And it is simply that, a worksheet, and it investigates the word resilience. And it allows the kids to write in, I think being resilient means when I'm going through a difficult time, the people I can trust to support me are things I can do to help me through a difficult time. And also, I have shown resilience and bounced back when. So this really lets them see that they've probably had an experience that they've been able to bounce back and that they can do things and that they have some skills already. And so it helps to support them in the future. And the last activity is also on TPT, and it is geared towards a growth mindset. So it gives several prompts on little cards that you can use with students either to journal. You could do an art therapy approach and see what their responses would be. You could also have discussions out loud in the classroom by picking a few cards. An example would be, what does growth mindset mean to you? What does it mean to have a fixed mindset where there is like no movement, no room for growth? Also, some of the cards are scenarios such as, John is supposed to work on his report tonight, but the internet isn't working. What can he do? To help your students have these live discussions. You could do small groups as well, just to investigate resiliency, problem-solving skills, empathy in the classroom. These are many situations that, you know, our students face themselves every day. If they're not applicable, I'm sure they're easy to change to make them more so as needed. Thank you for attending SEL, Self-Management. Again, my name is Brenda Day. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or are looking for any recommendations, whether it be activities or any kind of information. I'm always open to talk or to redirect as needed. Thank you and have a great day.